Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. This time we're starting a new module, Wired and Wireless Networks, and we're going to start by doing an introduction to different types of network. So this is a fairly simple short lesson. We're going to be looking at what a computer network is. We're going to be looking at LANs and WANs and the advantages and disadvantages of both. So what is a computer network? Well, a simple definition is a computer network is where two or more computer devices are connected so they can share resources. So that's two or more computer devices connected together so that they can share resources. And we'll come back to this in just a moment. So when I say computer device, I don't just mean the kind of stereotypical desktop computer. That could be a laptop, a printer, a server, a router, a tablet, a smartphone. In fact, any kind of device connected to a network. Nowadays, you could even buy light bulbs that can be network connected. So computer device has a very varied range of meanings, and it's not just a typical computer. So at this level, there are two main types of network that you need to know about. The local area network, or LAN, and the wide area network, or WAN. There are lots of other different types of network that sound quite similar. We can talk about SANs and PANs and MANs, but right now we just need to know about the local area network and the wide area network. So what is a local area network? A local area network is usually defined as a computer network located within a small geographic area. So this is often in the same building or in a small group of buildings. So you think about a school or a corporation or a university, it'll be a group of computers all linked together so they can share resources. It could be in one building or a small group of buildings, but it's all located within this small geographic area. Another part of the definition of a local area network is that all the communications media, for example, cables, wireless access points, etc., are all owned by the organization that controls the local area network. This organization is responsible for setting up the network and maintaining it. So this means that the office that's running the local area network, they have to buy all the hardware, all the cables, they set up and maintain it. A school looks after their own local area network. They put all the cables where they need them, they have the wireless access points, they set up a server. That's all controlled by the same organization that's using the local area network. If you look at the diagram down here in the corner, we've got a kind of example of a local area network, some of the different equipment that's going to be attached to it. And you can see that everything before you get to the firewall, this all has to be maintained by the organization that's using the local area network. Outside of this, when we move on to the internet and the outside world, that infrastructure, that hardware is maintained by other people. But local area network, all that equipment has to be maintained and organized and set up by the people who use the local area network. And this will be contrasted when we look at a wide area network in a couple of minutes. So in a local area network, devices are typically connected using Ethernet cables, which are made of copper, or by using Wi-Fi, which uses radio waves to send and receive information. A little language note, each device connected in a local area network is sometimes called a node. So if you see any exam questions that talk about nodes, a node is just a device, a computer device on a network that's being used in a local area network. Okay, just means the same as device, it's just slightly different terminology. So why do we like to use local area networks? Why do we first start setting them up? Well, one of the main reasons is that users on a LAN can share resources and files. Users with the correct permissions can access shared directories and files. So an example of that would be in a school, a teacher can make question sheets available to all the students, but the answers are only available to other teachers. So resources and files on those computers can be shared between users, and because different users can have different permissions, you can share different resources with different groups of people. Some people can access some resources, some people can access the others. And that makes a LAN very advantageous in a school or a university or an office. Users can also use any computer on the local area network. They can log into any computer and access the same files and folders. They're not restricted to having to log on to the same computer each time. Another big reason for people setting up a local area network is the ability to share peripherals such as printers and scanners. Remember, setting up a local area network costs money. You need to put the cables in place, you need to put the infrastructure in place, maybe you need to hire people to look after that equipment. This costs money. However, once you have the local area network set up, you only need to maybe use one printer between a whole group of people, one scanner between a whole group of people, and so on and so forth. I'm old enough to remember that maybe you'd work in an office and one computer would be connected to a printer. And if you wanted to print something out, you'd have to save your document onto a floppy disk or a zip disk or whatever they were using back then, queue up at that computer, wait for your turn, then you could actually print out your document. Nowadays, you can just press print and it'll come out at the network attached printer, and you don't have to worry about queuing up and waiting to use that one computer. You can also back up data centrally. You don't have to go around each single computer on the network to back up important files and documents. It can all be backed up centrally to a file server automatically. There are our disadvantages to using a local area network. As I've just mentioned a couple of slides ago, we have cost. You've got to set it up, you've got to maintain it. That involves drilling holes in walls and floors and ceilings, running cables, setting up wireless access points. And again, sometimes you need specialist staff to run the network. That costs money. Their salary has to be paid, or you need maybe an external company coming in and handling all the kind of admin tasks that a network requires. You've also got malware, malicious software, viruses, trojans, worms. If a malware is introduced to a network, it can spread rapidly from machine to machine. This is why if you're running a network, you need security in place to help prevent this. You're looking at things like antivirus software, you're looking at firewalls. Again, this needs to be thought about, it needs to be set up. Otherwise, an infection can spread throughout the whole network really quickly. Moving on from a local area network, we've got a wide area network. As the name suggests, a wide area network is wider than a local area network. So typically a WAN is two or more local area networks connected together. As you can see in this diagram, we've got a series of local area networks all connected together. These typically cover a larger geographical area. It might be across a city, a country, often it could be worldwide. These connections are provided by a telecoms company. So remember, the local area network, the organization that's controlling and using that local area network have to set up and maintain the equipment. With a wide area network, you don't do that. You need a large telecommunications company to do that. So in Britain, that might be a company like British Telecom, because you have to be able to lay cables across a city or across a whole country. You need a whole infrastructure in place there. And small businesses or even large international companies can't provide that. They need the network that's already in place by these telecommunications companies in order to transmit the data between their different local networks. So with a wide area network, you're looking at covering a large geographical area, and the actual hardware and infrastructure is provided by a third-party telecommunications company. And that's what separates it from a local area network. So an example of a wide area network might be something used to connect different LANs of a company with offices spread across London. Or it might be a company that has offices in London, Paris, Los Angeles, Tokyo, and it wants all these different local area network offices connected together on one network, and that means workers in one office can access files and resources in offices around the world as if they were part of the same local area network, even though they're hundreds or perhaps thousands of miles apart. Of course, the largest type of wide area network is the internet. The internet is a connection of all the different wide area networks together in the world to create this massive wide area network that allows you to send and receive information across the world. But there are wide area networks that aren't the internet, that are used by big businesses or different groups of universities to share resources. So local area networks are connected together to form wide area networks using different transmission/communications media. So you could connect LANs together to form WANs using copper telephone cables, but that's not ideal. Better still would be something like fiber optic cables. Sometimes you can even use satellite communications, but satellite communications, while the actual speed of the data transmission is really fast, you're looking at a really long distance. So in fact, there's a lot of latency and it's not ideal. That's why generally we have fiber optic cables connecting different continents together in order to provide this internet infrastructure to send information around the world really quickly. And we'll come back and look at fiber optic communications a little later on. So these all allow the local area networks to be connected together so that data can be shared between them. So it means that workers can collaborate on projects even if they're geographically far apart. So again, if you're looking at a wide area network that connects offices together in London and New York, workers can work together on the same projects. They can collaborate on the same documents and the same projects. What about some disadvantages to wide area networks? Well, again, there is a cost. The infrastructure for the wide area network, as we've discussed, is provided by a third-party telecommunications operator. In order to transmit data over their wide area network, you have to buy bandwidth, and that can be expensive. And we all have experience with that. If you want to connect to the internet, you have to pay an ISP, an internet service provider, money. And that's because you're going to have to transmit data over their cables, over their fiber optic connections, through all their junctions and routers and things like that. And if you're doing that, they're wanting you to pay money to access their network, because somebody has to physically maintain this infrastructure for a wide area network. And that way you have to rent bandwidth and pay them money every month or every year. Another disadvantage is possible network failure. Again, with a local area network, if something breaks, you have to go and fix it. But you can do that straight away. With a wide area network, if a cable is broken, if there's a serious problem, you have to wait for the telecommunications company to fix it. So imagine here there's a problem with one of the cables under the street. Again, you have to wait for them to come, dig up the road, and repair the cable. So this might take days or weeks depending on the fault, and there's nothing you can do to fix it until that happens. Alright, I think that will be everything for today. Remember, you need to know about local area networks, advantages and disadvantages. You need to be able to define what a local area network is as opposed to wide area network, and you have to be able to discuss advantages and disadvantages of wide area networks, including the largest type of wide area network, which is the internet. Alright, well, good luck with your studies, and I'll join you again for another video in this series of wired and wireless networks a little bit later on.